Welcome to this informational video from the Financial Leadership Academy of the Mid-Atlantic United Methodist Foundation. This is Rich Church, Poor Church, Keys to Effective Financial Ministry. In this video, Clif Christopher, founder of Horizon Stewardship and author of multiple books on generosity in the church, shares some of his key learnings from his decades as a United Methodist pastor and church growth consultant.
Jack, the writing of God versus Money, it really came to me. I'd like to say I was sitting watching television and was kind of overwhelmed with the magnitude of what all is coming down with commercials and how inundated people are with how stuff is going to save us. I certainly don't believe that that's true. And yet it's like a bombardment of stuff. And so I wanted to address that if we do not combat that as a church, there will be nobody taking this on. I want our churches to know they've got to take this on. And I felt about it strong enough to even talk about it in forms of combat, in a battle. This is an enemy that's there, and we need a plan to defeat this enemy to help people see that true life, real life, fulfilling, joyful life occurs not from the acquisition of stuff, but from the giving away of self to others.
Christopher emphasizes that it is important for churches to understand what it is that motivates people to give to a church or to any other nonprofit organization.
The reasons people give is something I've been talking about for a couple of decades now. We almost annually will have research surveys done trying to understand the American donor. Why do we choose to give, what we do to who we do? And consistently, three things have continued to come out on top. We have found out that the number one reason why people give, whether it's to a church or college or wherever else, their reasoning was around the mission, that they truly believed in the mission that charity was doing. They believed that the cause was right and that the charity itself was very effective in meeting and reaching that cause. So belief in the mission is what all nonprofits will talk about over and over and over again, and how they do what they do well, because that's the main thing donors want to know. And that's what people want to know about the church. How are you accomplishing this mission to make the world a better place? Secondly, we've learned that how important staff relationships are. The CEO of most nonprofits is by far and away the most effective fundraiser, and the person who can speak the best about that mission. In a church, that's the pastor. So all nonprofits structure their communication tools around their leader, because the leader is really the only one who can say effectively, you know, if you make this gift, I can promise to you that you will get this outcome. Nobody else can say that. You want to make this change happen, I'm the leader of this organization, I can make that happen. In a church, that's the pastor that needs to learn to do that. And yet we tend to shield pastors from those kind of relationships and discourage them instead of encourage them. The last is fiscal responsibility. People want to back a winner. You know, nobody wants to support a sinking ship. And yet churches for decades have communicated to its people that we're in dire straits, we're in big trouble, we've hit struggling months, we need you to give more money. And they continue to do it over and over and over again, really with the belief that the more we cry wolf, the more our people want to give. And in today's environment, the exact opposite is true. Church people are hearing so much from so many charities who are never crying that they're broke and saying, you know, maybe my money's not being effectively used at the church because they're always broke. Maybe I need to look at this charity or that charity because they're always talking about how they're changing lives and being effective. So people are going to give where they truly believe that fiscal responsibility has been practiced and the mission has been done.
As churches seek to fund their mission and ministry, It is important to take advantage of all three of the pockets of giving available to them.
The three pockets of giving, and again, it's something I've talked about for a long time, or the annual pocket, and everybody has these. Everybody has these three pockets. The annual pocket, which is our earned income pocket. I have this job, I make this amount of money, I take that money and stick it in my wallet, and I pay my rent with it, I buy groceries with it, I give some to the church with it, etc. That's the earned income pocket. And then we have the capital pocket. Capital pockets are again assets that are ours, but we don't use them in our regular ongoing cash flow. They're stocks or bonds or inheritances or insurance policies or a piece of land, or they're assets, they're valuable, they have worth, but we don't use them every day. We don't have plans to use them every day. They're sitting over here for a point in time. I may want them, and then I reach in there and get it. They're accumulated assets, if you will. And then there's the plan giving pocket that generally is a pocket that is accessed only at the point of death. This is what I have left behind. Most of us will be wealthier on that day than any other day. And this is what I wish to have done with it. All charities understand that they need to be marketing to all three pockets. And they do consistently on a regular basis. The church does the annual pocket pretty well, but frankly, they're very poor at doing the capital pocket or doing the estate giving pocket. And they're simply advocating in many respects those gifts to other charities that we're trying to change.
If your church does not already prepare a missional or narrative budget, now is the time to start. Christopher explains more.
A missional budget is an annual budget. It's just not a line item budget. It's done in a different way. And I think most of us are familiar with that line item budget. You know, light bill, we're going to pay blank dollars. The insurance on the building, we're going to pay blank dollars. And, you know, a salary of a certain person, we're going to pay blank dollars. Those exist in any organization. Certainly should exist in every church. You're going to need to have an accounting of funds, and it's proper for somebody to say, gosh, what did we pay out to the utility company last year? And somebody should have a record and wrote that up in a line item. But that's not what donors want to know. And it's not predominantly what church people want to know. They really don't care how much your light bill is. They want to know how effective you've been in changing lives and in performing your mission. So you take these line items and you divide them up into missional categories, such as worship, education, missions, and you divide that. For instance, a pastor, that's not just a person. That is a worship leader. How much of a pastor's time is devoted in the worship arena? Pastor says, golly, 50% of my time in preparation of sermons and preparing for worship. So 50% of a pastor's salary, whatever else you may pay them in expenses, lumped into this category. 25% goes into nurture, because a pastor is a Bible study teacher and etc., with 25% of his or her time. And in pastoral care of persons, etc., which the church is involved in, how much time. So you take these line items and you put them in there. In areas like worship, for instance, part of the utility bill goes there. You turned on the air and lit the lights. So utilities, people don't want to know about that. But what does worship cost me? What does Sunday school and Bible studies cost me? What does it cost for us to care for people who are sick or struggling or needing counseling? And how's our budget, distributed in those categories? That's what you talk about and help people see what you're doing with their money. You can't interpret it from a line item budget, but when you do a missional, or what I call a narrative budget, you can.
Christopher encourages every church to view stewardship as a year-round endeavor.
An annual stewardship calendar should begin the first month of the year and end the last month of the year. Most churches would probably say, oh, the annual stewardship calendar, we do stewardship in October. The fact is, we should do stewardship 52 weeks a year. It is a way of life and should be for any Christian community. So we need to have a calendar of how we're teaching and learning and growing as stewards throughout the year. We're going to do a preaching series at a certain time. We're going to be discussing planned giving at a certain time. We're going to be growing in a sense of tithing at a certain time. We're going to be looking at our particular gifts of how we give ourselves and our talents away. How are we growing that understanding as we move throughout the year and actually have a full plan of making that happen each month going forward?